Welcome to the Content 10X podcast. I'm your host, Amy Woods, and I'm delighted that you've joined me for this episode. In this week's episode, I'm continuing on the theme of discussing the high-value thought leadership content that B2B organizations should be creating. And by its true definition as thought leadership content, it's content that AI simply can't create. It's differentiated, human-led, unique, trust-building, and exactly what your audience wants. Today, we talk all about events. Listen on to find out the power of events in building community, content, and human connection. How to repurpose event content for maximum ROI. Looking at in-person and virtual events. There's a reason we call events content goldmines. And insights from leading B2B experts on event strategy, from generating thought leadership content to building brand authority, to sustaining marketing efforts for months. But before I get to the main content, just to mention, if you want content repurposing tips and guidance, industry updates, inspiring stories, and exclusive news delivered straight to your inbox every other week, then join thousands of marketers, business owners, and creators and become a Content 10X insider. Head to content10x.com/newsletter. Okay, back to events. Now, as context setting, following on from episode 323 called How to Create Content That AI Can't Create, I've been digging deeper into those types of content. We ran an entire series on the power of conducting expert interviews in your organization and then how to fuel your content strategy from those interviews. So check that out. It's episodes 324 to 329. Links will be in the show notes. We also have a really epic blog post called The Ultimate Guide to Planning, Recording and Repurposing Expert Interviews to Fuel Your Entire Content Strategy. Again, the link will be in the show notes for that, so go check it out. Now, in our last episode, I shared how equally powerful research and reports can be for all parts of your marketing funnel. Listen to that, it's episode 330, a really fantastic episode. But now today, I'm talking all about events. In particular, we're going to look at both live events and virtual events. We'll not specifically look at webinars because we're going to do an entire series on webinars after this episode. But I think live events are worthy of a separate discussion. Sometimes they are an underused content strategy, but after this episode, maybe it will take more of a front seat. Now, as I mentioned, we want to create content that is high value and AI simply can't compete in terms of quality, uniqueness, and usefulness. And put it this way, I don't think you're going to see many LLMs holding an event anytime soon. Events present such an effective way to connect with your community and network. You can't really replicate energy, passion, and buzz that is generated at a live event. In our other podcast, B2B Content Strategist, we speak to highly regarded leaders in B2B marketing, and in every episode, events tend to come up. Events are fantastic for many reasons, from, as I mentioned, community building and the human connection aspect, to the fact that they are a content extravaganza, so more on that soon. Firstly, let's look at the connection side of things with in-person events and gatherings. Here's a clip from episode 7 of B2B Content Strategy Season 3 with Mike Derrico, Head of Marketing at Arix Technologies. And here he's talking about when he moved into his role in the oil and gas industry and how as an industry, face-to-face is very important.
We are still dealing with people. No matter where you are, you're selling to people. Whether you're direct to consumer, you're selling to other businesses, you're usually talking to people, unless you're talking to a website chatbot or which you never know these days either. But yeah, I learned that it is a little bit of an old school industry and that really loves and appreciates networking. And at first I was like, wow, this can be a challenge, right? Because in a digital world, and I am a remote employee, I'm local to the Houston area, which is where our office is located, and where, if you know, is where a lot of energy and oil and gas companies are located. So there was an opportunity for me to get involved in in-person events, but I was like, wow, I mean, these folks still love their trade shows. They're more open to, I don't want to say cold calling, but they love phone conversations. They want to text. They don't even maybe love email so much. They love golf tournaments and fish fries and cook-offs. And I was like, wow, this is just such a different world. And, and I'm an extrovert, but when it comes to tried and true methods I've used in my, in previous roles. I was like, man, I'm going to have to find a new playbook here. So we do as much stuff as we can in person, and we have as many face-to-face conversations as we can. We do a lot of lunch and learns that may kind of be a little foreign, especially in such a digital world, virtual world where everybody's sparse and located, around. But a lot of our prospects are in the Houston area or within driving distance. And we go up, we treat them to lunch, we bring the robot in, we show them. Now it's not easy to get that meeting, but once we do, the community talks too. I think that's important to remember. And I think that's kind of universal in nature. I think that goes across industries. People talk, people find services, vendors that they like, that they want to share with their friends, their colleagues, at trade shows or previous people that they've worked with, and people talk. So it's been nice. You said back to basics. It's been really nice getting back to like a back to basics, almost kind of like that pre-pandemic. But this industry never changed. It's always been like that. So that's been cool.
I love sharing that clip because I think more than anything, it's about human connection and people hearing directly from other people. Events are so powerful because of this. And we've seen before, people connect to people. And I think Mike is right that some industries more than others thrive on more FaceTime, but it's still important for them all because we are all people. And even more so at this time in the AI era, people crave human connection more than ever. Then when it comes to creating content from events, there are so many opportunities. I'm not saying you create content from all the in-person events, probably not the lunch and learns, for example, or cook-offs or golf tournaments, although you definitely could. But I'm talking about the bigger events that really are content goldmines. So there are different types of content at events themselves. There's the keynotes and expert interviews, panel discussions, presentations, expos, employee content, customer content, product content, not to mention B-roll footage. And you can then repurpose an event and the content from an event into a blog post or many blog posts, videos, so long videos for your website, YouTube, short clips for social media, and highlight videos and things like that. Podcast episodes of the keynotes and talks, if you have a podcast, or maybe you could launch a podcast. Graphics, so image carousels, quote graphics, infographics. You can use photographs with the graphics too, so take lots of photographs at the events. User-generated content, your audience can create content and encourage this. Have hashtags on social, suggest they write blog posts. Also find ways to engage with attendees after the event too, so have polls and quizzes and Q&A sessions. And then there could be content for your community if you have one, so maybe a private community or a membership, or maybe you have a community hub. You could create a paid version of the event, for example, virtual tickets to the event. You could create email content. I think you get it. There's so much content. One event can cover multiple strategies as well. So maybe you've just launched a product, you could create content focused on that. Maybe you have key stakeholders that are now in the same room at the same time. Take advantage of that as a content opportunity. Or maybe many employees or customers are present and you could plan out what content to create from that. The variety of niche content that you can create for and then from one event with the right planning is invaluable and really effective. I'm certainly not saying that running an event would be easy, far from it. It takes a lot of planning and preparation. It requires time, resource and budget. But then it's even more important that you look to extend the content opportunities as much as possible. I would like to share this clip from our client, Megan Eales-Monroe, who is the Senior Manager of Marketing Content at Appfolio. And here she is speaking on our other podcast, B2B Content Strategist, about Appfolio's annual event. She explains how in 2024, after 10 years of the event, they went from it being a customer conference to a much larger industry conference. Just listen to the success that they had.
So we've been running this event for our customers for 10 years, and it had always been called the Appfolio Customer Conference. We had a really, large core group of loyal customers who, they looked forward to attending every year. They'd come to Santa Barbara. They'd learn all about how they can get more out of the platform and the partnership with Appfolio. But last year, the strategy changed. We went a lot bigger than ever with our targets for attendance, and we renamed the event to Future Conference. And its primary purpose evolved a bit from being just a connection opportunity for our current customer base to becoming really like a major event for the real estate management industry at large. So we had dozens of sessions. They were spread out across 2 days. And for the first time, a big portion of the speakers were from the real estate industry rather than only internal Appfolio speakers talking about our product. So we had leaders, from real estate industry groups like the National Apartment Association, the National Multifamily Housing Council, and a lot more. We also had some of our customers speak, which was great to hear from. A lot of them are leading in their fields. And then also our network of Appfolio Stack partners who provide integrations and consulting. We really got a lot of positive feedback, day of at the event. It was really just clear to everyone who was there, especially those who had been in the past, how much larger of a scale the event was, and also the networking, the connection opportunities for them were really remarkable. So looking at what made it a success, we had a couple different measurements. I think one of the most important was the new business units that we were able to close at the event, as well as opportunities for growth within our customer base. So not just adopting features that they don't currently use, but looking at other kinds of services or plan upgrades that could be a good fit for their business. We had a whole expo hall, which was called Explore, where they could meet with our teams for, screening, payments, also Stack partners. So it was just a great opportunity for them to learn about everything that was available to them.
It's really good to hear about the benefits to the company and also how hugely beneficial it was for their attendees. Now, I want you to hear Megan talk about the content opportunities as well. Here, I ask Megan what her favourite type of content is to repurpose. Let's hear what she had to say.
I think for me, the most obvious type of content to repurpose is that thought leadership from live events. So much effort goes into preparing for those opportunities, but that also includes live webinars, on-stage presentations at industry events like the one that I was telling you about, but also, if we get invited to participate on stages like at the National Apartment Association's event, for example. So capturing really great quality audio or video during those kinds of live events is what allows those moments to have an impact beyond the day where they occur. So one thing that we did recently was that we used some of the best audio clips from those sessions at the Future Conference to create a really great episode of our podcast. Our podcast is called The Top Floor. And so it had highlights from the event, clips from, a group of different speakers. And that has been great to, both remind people of the event, but also to help, get people thinking about it again for next year.
I mentioned earlier that Megan is a client of ours at Content 10X. We work with Megan and her fantastic team on the Top Floor podcast. So we actually had the pleasure of supporting them with repurposing their event content into a podcast episode. It was such a great way to repurpose content from an event. So if you have a podcast, then this is something to consider. If you don't have a podcast, you could actually consider launching a podcast series. So maybe it's a limited series, like a 6-episode podcast series, where the series is sharing great content from an event that you have run. So you don't need to have a long-term episodic, weekly or monthly podcast. You could just launch one that's related to the event and sharing that event content in audio format. Now, Megan mentioned something really important. She said about capturing really great audio and video during their live event. She said how crucial that was. You need to focus on this, on capturing quality audio and video if you are going to go on and use the content. You don't want to come up with the great idea to go and create podcast episodes or videos after the event, only to then realise the quality of what you captured wasn't good enough. You captured too poor quality content for it to be able to repurpose into onward video or audio content. Also, something to consider if your event was very exclusive or perhaps fairly high priced, and you want to keep it very exclusive in terms of the content, then you could still run a limited podcast series or video series, but you would put that as gated content. So something for the attendees or something that other people will perhaps have to pay a price to get access to. So that's just something to consider. Something else to mention. So think about pre-event promo and post-event nurturing campaigns too. At this point, I'd really like to encourage you to go to our website and check out our case study on our work with World DAB on how we have supported them with maximizing content from their events. So you just need to go to content10x.com/case-study-World DAB, or just find our case studies page from the menu bar, and you can grab the link in the show notes to that case study as well. Now, you can also put on fantastic virtual events as well. They don't have to be in person, and repurposing opportunities are abundant for virtual events as well. Maybe not quite as many as in-person events, but still there's a lot of repurposing opportunities. Your virtual event could be a free event or it could be a paid-for event. Typically, virtual events involve watching various talks and panel discussions, either as a single track event or even split track, where there may be a common opening and closing keynote and then different talks taking place at different times. It can be live, or the talks themselves could be pre-recorded. And whilst arguably it's not as much work necessarily as a live event, you're not working with venues and sorting out lunch and refreshments and all of that, but there's still a lot of work. For example, instead of sorting venues, you're sorting the right tech platforms. I actually know people who have found running virtual events more stressful than running in-person events. So there's still a lot of work. We've partnered with various B2B companies over the years, helping them to get the most out of their virtual events. And we have a case study that you can check out from our time-helping SaaS marketing platform, Metadata. So again, head to our case studies page, link in the show notes. But in a nutshell, in that case study, so what we did with Metadata, we took 11 videos from their virtual event and we created YouTube videos and social media videos and blog posts, and it was easily half a year's worth of content. And Metadata were a small marketing team. They didn't have the manpower for huge volumes of content, but through repurposing their virtual event, their marketing team looked much bigger than it actually was. Now, to hear all about this, listen to our episode with Mark Huber, who at the time was our client. He was head of brand and product marketing at Metadata. Go to content10x.com/225. The episode is called How to Repurpose a Virtual Event with Mark Huber. Here's a few fantastic sound bites from that conversation with Mark.
The fact that we had never done a virtual event actually worked out to our advantage. And the reason why is we didn't really have any, this is how it's always been done, therefore you need to do it this way. So we kind of reimagined what would be a virtual event that we ourselves would want to attend and use that as the bar throughout the entire build up to announcing the event, the entire build up to the day of the event, and then even what we did afterwards. So we really looked at it from the attendee experience. What are the topics that they are interested in? What formats would they want? What are the speakers that are either established names or up and coming names that would really be good to have on panels or discussions? So it was a content driven agenda. The majority of B2B companies that are doing virtual events, they publish all of the recordings the week after, and that's it. And they don't do anything with it. So we did not want to make that mistake. And I think because at the time we were a 3-person marketing team, we needed to turn that content into as many different assets as we possibly could. So a big justification for the event was that by recording 11 sessions at this virtual event, we felt that we could turn this into about 5 months worth of content, which was unheard of for a team our size. And it allowed us to continue to stay in front of the audience that we had built through this event, all the way up into the launch of our podcast. At first, I thought that recording sessions ahead of the event itself was kind of lame, because I'm thinking, well, why would they record it? Wouldn't you just do that at the event itself? I'm so glad that my eyes were opened up to the benefits of pre-recording those sessions, because One, when you have a little bit more lead time, then you can start to repurpose and promote those clips the day of the event when they're happening. And then two, you drive a better attendee experience because you can get those people who are either presenting or on the panel to participate in the chat. And you're giving your audience access to some really smart B2B marketers to ask questions that they may not always have the opportunity to do so.
It's great to hear how Mark and his team really focused on the content being high quality and just right for their audience, and how they really focused on turning the event into so much more from the get-go. Now, I really hope that you've been inspired and you understand the potential for events and why, whilst just as with research reports, they are hard work, there's no doubt about that. It's so worth it if it's planned and done well. It's not a one-off thing. It's just the start of even more content, more success, and more return on investment. My final thought on this is around measurement. So look at what your metrics could be. How will you measure the success of the event? Within the typical metrics that you would expect to see, that could include attendee numbers and engagement and satisfaction, so measured through feedback surveys, social media interaction. Don't forget to ask your attendees and stakeholders for feedback. What can you improve in your next event? What worked? What didn't? And on that, don't forget to write a list of things that happen, like tech issues, so you have a plan to maximize your next event. Then there would be lead generation and business impact, so how many leads we've collected, lead to customer conversion rates, pipeline opportunities influenced, and new business deals closed during or after the event. Account level engagement and follow-up meetings also demonstrate the event's contribution to business growth. When you look at brand awareness and content reach metrics like media mentions, website traffic increases, social media engagement rates, and content downloads, assess how effectively the event boosted brand visibility and extended its reach beyond attendees. Here, be sure to consider not just the content at the event on the day, but all the repurposed content too. To get a full idea of reach, consider the traffic to the blog post, the downloads to the podcast, the email opens, social engagement of all content created from the event. It can be pretty mind-blowing what can be achieved when you start to measure everything. And this measurement gives you what you need to develop the business case for future events. Now, we're going to really dig into webinars in the coming episodes and find out why, according to many of our guests over on B2B Content Strategists, they are the most popular content for repurposing. As always, if you need help with your content, with repurposing event content, or maybe expert interviews, podcasts, webinars, reports, we've got you covered. Head to content10x.com/inquiry or send us an email at info@content10x.com. We'd love to speak. All that's left to say is thanks for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.